Hello everyone. Welcome to our channel. In today's video, we are going to delve into a topic that, while it may be uncomfortable, is very important to understand. Narcissism, especially in the context of men. We often hear the term narcissist and associate it with selfish and manipulative behaviors, but there are many layers behind this personality. We will explore the characteristics that men with narcissistic traits typically exhibit, how these traits manifest in relationships, and what effects they can have on those around them. We will also discuss some strategies for recognizing them and, if necessary, protecting yourself from their influence. So if you're interested in understanding a bit more about this topic and how it affects our lives, stay with us. Let's get started. Narcissism, understood as a pattern of grandiosity, need for admiration, and lack of empathy, has been studied in various psychological and social contexts. While it cannot be claimed that narcissism is exclusive to one gender, there are several reasons that may explain why it is more common or visible in men. First, from a cultural and social perspective, men have traditionally been socialized to adopt roles that emphasize competition, ambition, and personal success. From a young age, men are expected to demonstrate their worth through achievements and recognition, which can foster narcissistic traits. This pressure to stand out and be admired can lead some men to develop a self-image based on superiority and the need for external validation. Moreover, men often face fewer social consequences for exhibiting narcissistic behaviors. Society tends to reward men who take on leadership roles and display self-confidence, even when this may cross the line into narcissism. In contrast, women who exhibit similar behaviors may be perceived negatively and labeled as controlling or difficult. This double standard can influence the manifestation of narcissism, making it more acceptable in men. From a psychological standpoint, there are also differences in how men and women tend to express their emotions and needs. Studies suggest that, in general, men tend to externalize their anxiety and insecurities, which can translate to narcissistic behaviors such as arrogance or dominance. In contrast, women tend to internalize their feelings, which may lead to depression or anxiety but not necessarily to the manifestation of narcissistic traits. Another perspective to consider is the influence of biology. Some studies have examined the relationship between testosterone and behaviors associated with narcissism. Testosterone has been linked to aggression and competitiveness, traits that may align with narcissistic characteristics. This does not mean that all individuals with high levels of testosterone are narcissistic, but it does suggest a possible biological predisposition. While narcissism is not exclusive to men, its manifestation may be more common in them due to social, cultural, psychological, and biological factors. These dimensions interact in complex ways, creating an environment where men are more likely to express and be recognized for narcissistic behaviors. However, it is important to note that narcissism itself is a spectrum and is not limited to variations of one gender. The narcissistic man is a consummate seducer, whose charisma and apparent perfection captivate those around him. When he enters your life, he makes you feel as if the universe has finally rewarded you with what you truly deserve, leading you to believe that you have found the love of your life. However, once he starts to feel secure in your presence, and after you have already fallen under his charms, his behavior changes drastically. Suddenly, he becomes a terrifying figure, a man who can become violent, seeks to isolate you from your loved ones, and undermines your self-esteem. With a disturbing ability to manage what is known as double imagery, he tries to confuse you and make you doubt your own thoughts and perceptions of reality, convincing those around him that you are the problem. These individuals, as specialists have shown, are unable to experience genuine love. Instead, they use others to feed their ego. They enjoy manipulating the feelings of others, projecting a deceptive facade to seduce women, and thus enjoying the control and influence they exert over them, all while playing with their vulnerabilities and emotional shortcomings. Here are the 10 red flags of the early stages of a relationship that show you are with a narcissist. 1. The relationship started very intensely. From the first moment you came into contact with this person, The relationship was characterized by overwhelming intensity. This type of start may seem exciting and captivating, as the narcissist often presents himself as the ideal lover, full of charisma and excessive attention towards you. Constant calls, texts throughout the day, and the need to see you every moment create a sense of urgency and passion that is hard to resist. They often make you feel like you are the only person who matters in their life, which is a dopamine-inducing feeling, leading you to believe that you have found someone exceptional. However, this phase of idealization is a key strategy of the narcissist to trap you emotionally. Their overflowing attention and initial enthusiasm are not just a reflection of love, but a form of manipulation. By creating such an intense bond from the outset, the narcissist establishes emotional dependency in you, making you feel special and valued in a way that few can. But remember, this initial magic may actually be a mask to hide their true intentions, and their way of loving is usually fleeting and superficial. 2. The dynamics of the relationship change over time. As the relationship progresses, what initially seemed to be a solid commitment begins to crumble. At first, your partner seemed willing to invest time and energy into the relationship, showing genuine enthusiasm for building a future together. But over time, that commitment transforms into increasingly evident emotional voids. The narcissist gradually begins to withdraw their love, attention, and approval, leaving a sense of emptiness in the relationship. This can be profoundly confusing, as you have become accustomed to being the center of their world, and now you face an abrupt change that may cause you to question what you did wrong. In this new dynamic, you find yourself taking responsibility for the relationship, trying to do everything you can to regain that interest and attention that was once easy to find. You strive to shorten the emotional distance, performing gestures and sacrifices that were not needed before. The narcissist, by withdrawing their attention, can create in you a desperate anxiety and a need for validation. The feeling that it is you who has to earn their love and affection is a clear sign of an unhealthy relationship, where, despite your efforts, it seems that you can never satisfy their changing desires. The dynamic related to the unequal exchange of love and commitment can lead you to lose yourself in the process while trying to fit into the mold that the narcissist has created. 3. Crossing personal boundaries. When you are in a relationship with a narcissist, it is common to start noticing that you are crossing boundaries that you once considered inviolable. You may find yourself changing aspects of your behavior, lifestyle, or values in the hopes of gaining approval from your narcissistic partner or to avoid conflicts. This transformation not only affects your identity, but can also lead to a loss of personal meaning. Actions that you once considered inappropriate or that were not part of your character become common for you as you try to adapt to the narcissist's expectations. This can result in profound dissatisfaction and a sense of emptiness, as you feel you have sacrificed who you are for someone who ultimately does not value or respect your true self. 4. The transformation of the narcissist in the relationship. When a narcissistic person enters a relationship, they may seem charming and magnetic, dazzling their partner with charisma and attention. However, over time, that fascinating image begins to fade. As the connection deepens, the narcissist may become progressively less emotionally accessible. They may appear distant or exhibit behavior suggesting that they feel empty or unoccupied when alone at home. Those deep conversations and meaningful moments that once seemed to flow naturally are replaced by an atmosphere of disinterest, almost as if the essence of the person who once attracted their partner has vanished. This transformation can be disconcerting. The partner begins to question where the charismatic and passionate person they embarked on the relationship with has gone. Laughter and complicity may be replaced by awkward silences and an apparent disillusionment that weighs heavily in the air. This change is not just painful, but can also plunge the partner into deep confusion, fueling doubt as to whether they were the ones who changed or if the narcissist, through their behavior, has created an emotional void in which both feel trapped. 5. Pressure to suppress self-expression. The fear of expressing feelings and emotions becomes a telltale sign that you are in a relationship with a narcissist. At first, one might feel free to share thoughts and desires, but they respond defensively or aggressively to genuine expressions from their partner. This dynamic creates an atmosphere of anxiety and tension, where every word and gesture becomes a minefield. It starts to seem as though self-expression is viewed not as a way to connect, but as a personal attack, which can lead the person to feel increasingly inhibited in their communication. As a consequence, excessive time is spent crafting messages that become increasingly strategic. Word choice becomes crucial. Tones and facial expressions are analyzed to avoid any misunderstanding that could trigger a disproportionate reaction from the narcissist. A simple mention of personal desires can result in emotional retribution, whether through silence, criticism, or contempt. This climate of hypersensitivity to criticism strengthens the perception that expressing feelings is dangerously akin to provoking an enemy, transforming the relationship into an emotional battleground where it is difficult to navigate and be authentic. The fear of self-expression and the sense that the narcissist has drastically changed are two interrelated elements that reflect the erosion of emotional intimacy in the relationship. This cycle of anxiety and repression can lead to a significant deterioration of the bond between both partners, leaving one feeling insecure and isolated in a relationship that once promised to be exciting and enriching. 6. Lack of empathy. One of the most distinctive traits of a narcissist is their remarkable lack of empathy. This aspect manifests alarmingly when faced with significant emotional situations, such as the loss of a loved one or the revelation of traumatic experiences. Instead of offering comfort or understanding, the narcissist appears disconnected and distant, showing a kind of non-reaction that is disconcerting. For example, if you find yourself crying over the death of a family member, instead of offering a hug or acknowledging your pain, they might change the subject or minimize your suffering with superficial comments. This indifference can make you feel even more isolated, as your emotions are not validated or recognized. This lack of empathy extends to situations where you would expect emotional support. Often, the narcissist may respond with behaviors that seem selfish or insensitive, such as making inappropriate jokes or showing disinterest. This emotional disconnect can lead to a feeling of betrayal, as their expected reactions would be warmth and understanding, given their closeness. The inability to put themselves in someone else's shoes means that the narcissist is trapped in a cycle of egocentrism, where the needs and emotions of others are irrelevant, even in the most critical moments. 7. Manipulation and gaslighting. In addition to the lack of empathy, a narcissistic person tends to be extremely manipulative, which can become a toxic aspect of any relationship. One of the most common techniques they use is gaslighting, a term that refers to psychological manipulation that causes the victim to question their own memory, perception, and reality. This behavior is insidious and can take many forms. The narcissist may claim that certain events never occurred or distort what was said, making you doubt your own version of the truth. For instance, if you mention that their behavior was hurtful, they might respond with statements like, "I never said that, you're exaggerating," or "You have a very poor memory." These comments seek to discredit your experiences and feelings, turning you into the source of confusion. In addition to gaslighting, narcissists often employ more subtle control tactics, such as fear, guilt, and obligation. They may resort to veiled threats or expressions of disappointment to keep you in a submissive position, ensuring that your actions and emotions revolve around their needs. This cycle of manipulation can be devastating, as it leaves the victim feeling trapped and with eroded self-esteem, forced to meet the expectations and demands of the narcissist. The combination of these tactics creates an environment where the victim's reality is in constant review and invalidation, which can ultimately have devastating effects on their mental and emotional health. 8. Double standards and lack of self-reflection. One of the most distinctive characteristics of narcissists is their manifest tendency to apply different standards to their behavior compared to that of others. This phenomenon manifests in the creation of a kind of personal moral code that is infinitely flexible, allowing them to justify almost any action they take. To them, their intentions are always pure, and therefore, their actions are always justified, regardless of how selfish or harmful they may be. This double standard becomes even more evident when observing how they evaluate and criticize those around them. When it comes to others, the narcissist is relentless. They can be extremely critical and pass harsh judgments for mistakes they consider minor, while allowing themselves to commit much graver offenses without a hint of self-criticism. This behavior often presents itself as a lack of self-awareness and a deficit in self-reflection. For the narcissist, self-reflection is not only scarce but becomes dangerous territory that they prefer to avoid at all costs. Instead of looking inward and questioning their own actions, they instinctively project their negative perceptions onto others, creating a toxic environment where expectations are uneven. A clear example of this double standard could be managing complaints or shortcomings. If a friend forgets a commitment, the narcissist might react with anger or contempt, often unleashing a series of criticisms about the other's lack of responsibility. However, if the narcissist finds themselves in the same situation, they are likely to quickly seek to justify their behavior, arguing that there were exceptional circumstances that warranted their forgetfulness. This capacity to see themselves as victims of circumstances, while viewing others as responsible for their behavior, underscores not only the hypocrisy inherent in their character but also the disconnection between their perception of reality and that of those around them. The fact that they cannot or will not recognize this double standard can make their personal relationships tumultuous and complex. Often, those close to a narcissist may feel constantly frustrated and unfairly treated, as if they are operating under a set of rules that are completely foreign to the narcissist. This dynamic, which can lead to great interpersonal discord, is fueled by the narcissist's inability to consider how their behavior affects others and their resistance to introspection. This creates a cycle in which the people around them begin to develop a deep sense of disappointment and resentment, feeling that they can never meet the unreasonable expectations the narcissist imposes without realizing their own hypocrisy. 9. You are noticing major inconsistencies. One of the most revealing traits of a narcissist is the inconsistencies in their narratives and behavior. Inconsistencies unravel in the fabric of their stories and in the way they present themselves. At first, everything may seem bright and coherent. They present themselves as the embodiment of values and principles they wish to convey. However, as you progress in the relationship, a disquieting dissonance begins to emerge. The words they utter, supposedly laden with sincerity, do not always align with their actions. For example, a narcissist may say they have moved on from their ex-partners, emphasizing that they are someone who values closure and renewal. However, upon observing their activity on social media, you discover that they are still in contact with all their exes, commenting on their posts and interacting with them in ways that contradict their claim of having closed that chapter of their life. This not only generates distrust but also raises serious questions about their capacity to be honest and transparent. Another common situation is when they claim to have certain principles or criteria regarding their partners, such as a dislike for becoming involved with single mothers, only to then surprise you by entering a relationship with precisely that type of person. These situations reveal a lack of authenticity, a need to present themselves in a way that they are ultimately incapable of maintaining. The narcissist manipulates both their narrative and their image continuously, adapting them to fit what they believe is expected of them or what they think will benefit them at that moment. Inconsistencies can also be reflected in their social behavior. They might assert to you that they are reserved people who do not share details of their intimate lives, only for you later to find that they are the talk of the friend group, discussing their relationships and conquests as if they were trophies, secretly taking pictures of women they have slept with, to later boast before their friends and acquaintances. This duality stuns and confuses, as what they say is not only deceptive but feels like a betrayal of the intimacy they promised. Lastly, another type of inconsistency is the contradiction between their interests or preferences and what they actually do. A narcissist may assert that they value sincerity and authenticity, but, ironically, they find themselves involved in numerous situations where manipulation and deception are the norm. If they tell you they have an aversion to prosthetics, but then show interest in a person with those characteristics, it reveals not only a lack of clarity in their stance but also a deeply superficial approach to their assessments and judgments about others. The major inconsistencies of a narcissist are a clear indicator of their lack of authenticity and who they truly are. In a narcissistic relationship, these discrepancies are not usually isolated incidents. They are part of a larger pattern of lies and manipulations that, once identified, can lead to serious questioning of the relationship's viability. These traits can manifest at different levels and forms, together painting a portrait of a person incapable of living according to their own assertions. In the end, this person was never what they pretended to be, nor do they intend to be loved for who they are. What matters is the conquest and using people to feed the ego. 10. They have a huge ego. Everything is filtered through their grandiosity. If their ex quickly finds a partner, they swell with pride, claiming that it is because that woman is truly worthwhile, since she was their ex, reflecting their personal worth. On the other hand, if another ex struggles to rebuild their love life due to the pain they have caused, he says it is because he has left a mark and is irreplaceable in her life. If a woman sleeps with him without delay and he wants to continue getting to know her, without detracting from her value due to her behavior, he argues that he knows how to generate a lot of trust. Additionally, when a woman feels attracted to him and offers to have sex without delay, he cannot help but attribute it to his exceptional ability to generate trust, not to the quality of the women he attracts or that he is attracted to. This way of thinking not only reveals his inability to recognize the value of the other person, but also underscores his obsession with maintaining his own status and relevance. For him, there is no recognition that his partners may act motivated by their own autonomy and desires. The narrative always revolves back to him, stripping others of their personality, their own worth, and their own choices. It is essential to understand that, in the mind of a narcissist, personal worth is not assessed by their self-perception, but by the admiration and recognition they can evoke in those around them. This perception, however, is rarely grounded in the authenticity of their character. Rather, it is based on a projection of perfection, in which they showcase a limited and carefully crafted version of themselves. This emphasis on external admiration reveals a profound emptiness. Although they claim to be respected and sought after for advice that leads to successes, they rarely pause to consider the appreciation they feel for others. For a narcissist, relationships are a projection of their personal worth. There is always a backdrop where they are the protagonist and others are mere actors defining their greatness. Their world revolves around an ego forged in a perpetual cycle of admiration and external validation, leaving little room for genuine recognition of the feelings and accomplishments of those around them. They constantly emphasize how much people respect them, how much admiration they generate, and how they have been sought for advice that has been successfully applied. However, they never mention the appreciation they feel for others. Always at the center of it all is the supposed appreciation they have managed to generate in others. In conclusion, narcissism is a complex disorder that manifests through various psychological traits, such as the need for admiration, lack of empathy, grandiosity, and manipulation. Recognizing these behaviors is fundamental, not only for understanding how they affect interpersonal relationships but also for cultivating greater empathy and promoting mental health in our environment. At the end of the day, understanding narcissism allows us to not only protect ourselves but also to initiate a more open dialogue about emotional well-being and the importance of empathy in our lives. We hope this video has provided you with a clearer insight into this topic and urges you to reflect on your own relationships. Thank you for watching and see you next time.